Welcome to episode 13 of the Today I Am Sober podcast with your host, Liz W. Today on the show, I'm doing something a bit different. I'm sharing a personal story that isn't just mine, but it's also my brother's. And because it's not just my story, and because my brother is still alive, he listens to the show. In case you're interested, his favourite episode so far was episode 1 with Dr. Catherine Hickman. He really wants her as his GP too. And I have a great relationship with him today. So old Liz would have just released it and not thought anything about what he thought about it, whether he thought it was a good idea or not, whether he liked it, whether he cared. I wouldn't have been remotely interested. But Liz that is sober has really worked hard to build a relationship built on a solid foundation of trust with my brother. So of course, I did what you would expect me to do. I said to him, I've recorded this podcast show. Will you have a listen, please? It's really short. It's only about 10 minutes. And let me know if you're happy for me to release it, because it's our story, not just mine. And he listened to it and he said, yeah, the podcast's great. It's fine to publish. P.S. You're not selfish anymore. And I'm like, oh, is that all you've got to say? I contacted him and called him up actually and said, is that all you've got to say? He goes, well, actually, there's one thing that happened at the time that I never told you because you were in rehab and blah, 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 blah. And off he went. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And he'd held on to that part of our story for 6 years. And it reminds me that the people that we love are impacted deeply by our drinking and also impacted deeply by our sobriety. But the good news is, 6 years on from that time when he told me the thing that I didn't know had happened, and I'm glad at the time I didn't know, we're in a completely different position and we actually laughed about it, even though it was rather tragically sad at the time. So I hope you enjoy the show. Let me know what you think. If you like today's show, please either drop me an email at liz@todayIamsober.co.uk. Alternatively, we'd love it if you could give us a rating and review over on Apple Podcasts, because it helps other people find the show. But less rambling from me. I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy the show. The funniest thing happened the other day. My lovely, lovely brother texted me and said, what's the name of your podcast? Can I listen to it? And I was like, oh my goodness me, I can't believe my brother's listening to a podcast. He's never listened to a podcast in his life. He's listening to me. Have I said something that might upset him? Oh my goodness. And then about 2 hours later, I got the most lovely text back from him. He said, and I quote, I listened to a couple of your podcasts, I enjoyed the one with the doctor from Leeds. That's Catherine Hickman, by the way. They're very good. I'm proud of you. Keep up the good work. Love, big bro. Smiley face. Now that might seem a little self-indulgent to share what my big brother and my only sibling, has said about the podcast. But what this doesn't take into account is the damage that my drinking did to our relationship. And this podcast is all about the joy, but I don't want to sugarcoat it for you. My drinking caused damage to the people that I love. It caused damage to me. It caused damage to my immediate family, the people that live with me. I damaged relationships with people I would, profess to love and care about. And my big brother was one of those people who I hurt. So to hear that message from him that he's interested in what I'm doing and that he actually enjoyed it. It's like, it's a major sign to me that recovery works, that trying to change who you are and how you behave can happen. So if you're the woman who, like me, drinks to numb her emotions, who drinks to who wants the world to stop and wants to get off the world, and you think, oh my God, I can't cope without this drink in my life. I just want to say to you, I was there too. I drank every single day for years because I couldn't deal with the emotions inside of me. And the thought of stopping was so scary and insurmountable. I always said, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow, because I couldn't face doing it today. Until the day came when the game was up. I knew something had to change. I knew I couldn't continue as I was, because I was slowly killing myself, is the truth. But going back to my brother, and if you're listening, I love you. I really do. And I loved you when I was drinking. I just couldn't show you, because my relationship with my booze was more important than my relationship with you or anyone else in my life. But the beauty of stopping drinking, listener, is that the relationships that you have when you're drinking do not need to continue as they were. You can change them. And I heard this really interesting analogy in rehab. And someone said, I can only change what fits inside a hula hoop. And I immediately thought, oh my God, that's me. I'm in the hula hoop. I can only change me. But what I realised I tried to do over the years was I tried to take people hostage and hook the hula hoop over them and bring them into my madness. And I did that with my brother. But I also pushed him out of the hula hoop to the point where he wasn't in my orbit anymore. So what did that look like? So that looked like me never phoning him, me never phoning him back, forgetting birthdays. In fairness, I still forget birthdays. I'm a bit atrocious at sending birthday cards, but I always remember it's the day and I always contact him. And I disconnected myself from him. So instead of taking him hostage inside the hula hoop, what I would do is I would push him as far away as possible, because I didn't want him to know what was going on, because there was so much shame inside of me about how I felt about myself. So guess what happened? You know, if you push people away long enough, they stay away. And that's what he did. He had to disconnect himself from me because he didn't like me very much. And in truth, I didn't like myself, and I wasn't particularly likable. So there wasn't much to like going on with me at that in my drinking days. And there was nothing more stark than when, if you've ever been to rehab, you'll know this, but at the rehab I went to, they had family sessions, and your family come along and sit with you and the other inmates. And it's facilitated by someone who's a specialist in family relationships. And my brother came to it with my mum, and they were allowed to come for dinner beforehand, because it was like a 5-star hotel, this rehab. So we'd sit down having dinner, and I'm not used to sitting down having dinner with people without a drink inside of me, never mind my brother, who I haven't spoken to her for a while. We've become quite disconnected, even though we were a really close nuclear family growing up. And he said to me, do you know what, you're really selfish, you are. Really selfish. How fucking selfish of you. Oh, sorry, excuse me. This is why we've got the explicit note on this podcast, because occasionally the odd one pops out. He said, you're really fucking selfish. You know, Dad's just died 9 months ago. You know, Mum's lost her partner of 50 odd years. They'd just celebrated their golden wedding anniversary. And here you are in rehab because you drink too much. But you know what? He was absolutely right. At the time, I was furious. I said to the other inmates, just, we had a cigarette break after dinner before we went in. I said, how dare he say that to me? I was full of righteous indignation. How dare he say that to me? But hindsight's a really wonderful thing. Once I'd separated myself from the booze, once I managed to get some days when I could start to see more clearly, and I managed to look at my part in things and stop focusing on other people's part and their stuff, I was able to really look at me and come to terms with the fact that, you know what, I was really selfish when I was drinking. I was really selfish. It was all about me. And if you imagine that hula hoop, the things that we can change fit inside that hula hoop. When I was drinking, that hula hoop was so tight around me. And it wasn't a hula hoop at all, it was the booze. The booze wrapped me up and it made me so small and so isolated within myself. I couldn't see anything or anyone else but me. I could just focus on me. But it was off when I was in that treatment centre. I was left without the booze. I was left with all of these feelings. I was left with these relationships of, like my brother, who was furious with me, and rightly so. And it was really difficult navigating those feelings. But you know what? Katie Phillips was on the show. I think it was episode 5. And she said that feeling is healing. And you have to navigate your way through those uncomfortable feelings to come out the other side. And that you have to love yourself in the process. Now, for someone that was told that they were really selfish, actually loving yourself seems like another selfish act. But you know what? Loving myself enough to separate myself from the booze, to separate myself from my family to go into treatment, and to continue to keep separate from the booze every single day since, and even today, because today I'm sober, it's worked. I've able to start to connect with myself and to start to unpick the uncomfortable feelings, particularly around my immediate family and in my relationship with my brother. So if you're listening, big brother, I love you so, so much. And I'm really grateful today that you were able to be that honest with me, because we spent a lot of time sugarcoating our feelings as kids. And you've never done that with me. You've always told me as it is. You've told me when I'm being a dick, and you've told me when I've been an absolute star. And for that, I am enormously grateful. And the fact that my big brother can phone or text me today and say something so positive is a miracle, because where our relationship was when I was drinking, or as I stopped drinking, to where it is now are poles apart. We have a grown-up relationship now. We talk about grown-up things. Oh, I know. We talk about our feelings. We do. He's a man and he talks about his feelings to me. He's a straight man, not that it makes any difference. But, he's able now to open up and talk to me. And I'm available to listen. Which for this alcoholic who was never available for anything other than a bottle of Pinot, it's a miracle. So if you're struggling today, if you're still on the side of drinking's your best friend and it gives you this warm, fuzzy feeling, and perhaps you're using it like I did to numb how you feel, there is life on the other side. Where your relationships are today is not where they're going to end up. Life does change because you can change. So if you've got a hula hoop, I strongly encourage you to get one, because, sobriety is about having fun. And there's, if you've ever seen a child with a hula hoop, there's something really freeing about it, isn't it? About the way kids physically move their body. And as an adult, I've kind of lost that freedom. I've become a bit, got to be sensible. But you know what? I say no to that. Let's all get some fun back in our lives, because I've stopped drinking to get joy into my life, not to be bloody miserable. So get yourself a hula hoop. It doesn't have to be a physical one. It can be an imaginary one. And get up and imagine yourself hula hooping around, being a crazy woman. Put some mad music on. Find some joy today. And if my brother ever gets as far as listening to this episode, I do love you, and I'm so grateful for you. I hope this has been useful. I don't know. I feel like I've been a bit like a rambling mad woman talking to you today. But recovery is about the shades of grey. I lived in a very black and white world when I was drinking. But today I operate and enjoy the levels of grey. Because life is about the shades. It's not about the black and white. If you've liked this episode, I would love it if you could leave me a rating and review. You can email me, find out on the todayIamsober.co.uk website. There's a link to my email address in there. Let me know what you think. I love feedback, good and bad, because today I can handle it, because I know that the only thing I can change fits inside a hula hoop, and today I'm not taking anyone hostage with me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Today I Am Sober podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I love your feedback. So come and find me on social media. All of the links are in the show notes. Until next time, bye.